Hello everyone. Welcome to JLU Knowledge Series. We had an amazing session in terms of films and animation today. Coming to the last session, which is that is in design and its emergence of new experience frameworks and the hyper-connected consumer. The session is curated by Jagran School of Visual Arts and Design. I would like to invite our guest, Mr. Sashikant Kalsha. Sashikant sir is co-founder of QuodeQuay Technologies, Pune. Sir has an amazing experience of 19 years and more in the field of user experience processes, user-centered design, augmented and virtual reality, visual design. He is a creative and innovative UX consultant who is playing different roles in terms of digital content development. Um, Sir has been also a coder, thinker, artist, and a musician. We welcome you, sir. Before proceeding further, I would like to inform our viewers that we will have a question and answer round session post presentation. You can write your questions in the given column. Now, I would like to request Sir to take the session further.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Great. And I'm sharing my screen. Just let me know if you can see that as well.
Yes, sir, we can see the screen.
So let's quickly start. So guys, hello everyone. It's a pleasure connecting with you all and talking on a very great topic, which is a futuristic topic about UX engineering and the career path it holds. And thank you to Jagran University for inviting me, giving me this opportunity to talk about the technology, the people who are aspiring their careers in this technology. How can they benefit from this talk? We will be talking about that in the next couple of minutes. And thanks to Imagine XP as well for connecting me to you guys and giving me this opportunity wherein we are exchanging our thoughts and ideas. So starting with the presentation. So I'm primarily, I have around 20 years of experience, as you already introduced about. I am a digital design thinker, a digital design thinking integration guy, and I've been into the IT industry for last 20 years, worked on various big MNCs and corporate brands, worked for various enterprise level applications. And the idea was primarily, to implement the design thinking for creating apps which are usable and rightly done for the right target audience. So that's where I have gained a lot of knowledge and information in the course of time, and I am here to share that thing. Primarily, if you see how the whole world is changing, the whole design, the digitalization is kind of amalgamating. The whole combinations are evolving every day, every hour. When we see with the current features of the lockdown, the COVID-19 situation, everybody and anybody who was asked to get locked down found out a way to connect to the world in a digital way. While the corporate, the IT companies, the various government initiatives has been there to talk about design initiatives, digital initiatives to go online. They all has been got done in very small amount of time. In last 3 months, almost everybody got digitized. People are connecting on way. So UX is all about that. Our guru, Don Norman, the guy who actually created the user experience concept, is a guy who talked about how a physical interaction between a human and a technology should happen. And he's the guy whose rules we follow. He's the guy who actually crafted this whole industry. So when we talk about the digitalization, the whole digitalization that has happened in the last 2 or 3 months, you see anybody and everybody is talking about that. Recently, we came across a news where jewelers are reaching out to their customers doing online. A lot of product has gone online. Colleges have started online. In fact, I was doing one session last week, and I came to know the judicial system is getting online, where the judge will be sitting somewhere, you know, the the advocates would be somewhere, so the whole technique of doing the process of doing the, various things to achieve an output is getting digitalized. So the future is about digitalization. And why I am talking about digitalization right now? The reason I'm talking about digitalization is because the moment we get into digitalization, user experience becomes an utmost important thing to, get into. And anything and everything which talks about a computer interaction, which talks about, when a human interacts with a technology or a computer, what is it that will make an experience better? That is where actually the user experience comes in. And this is actually a demand across all the industries right now. We talk about large MNCs, we talk about consumer, fast moving good, consumer driven agencies. We talk about banking and finance, insurance sector, telecom, pharma, media. Multiple industries are looking for, enhancing the experience of the user. They want their customers to be satisfied. They want large processes to be optimized so that the cost can be done. The time to complete a task should be optimized so that, the business runs more faster. So when we take all these approach, when business demands such thing, when consumer demands such thing, what is it that will actually deliver that value to you? And that's exactly where the user experience comes in the picture. And hence the user experience, which is actually a core basic hygiene requirement in the digitization world. The future, which is right now getting digital, the whole, the concept of uh, making uh, things on the basis of a minimal click much more easier to the accessible to the people is happening through digitalization. And hence, to get into that, the best way is to learn about the process that one would need to do. And this has been very, brilliantly crafted by ImagineXP there in their 6D framework. What is user experience? Experience that is given to the user. User, first of all, understand about the user. Who is a user? What does the user need? What are the demands of the user? So talk about everything and anything related to user. Then we get into an experience. What is experience? What is it that one expects from a business? What is it that the goals of the business, and how are various these experience can be enhanced by doing various type of tasks? So all these things are actually can be attained by a very well crafted, a framework that ImagineXP puts in. And here we call it a 6D process. A 6D process which actually has a three different space. First space is called as a design strategy phase. Second space is called a design solution space. And the third space is called design delivery space. Primarily, the whole 6D process is actually, crafted so intelligently so that even when you get into a creation of anything, you first of all understand what are the demands, what are the needs of the people. And that thing is something what this framework helps you to enable. Discover, define, dream, design, develop, and deliver is something which is an iterative process whenever you get into creation of something. While you are while you are in the strategy space, a solid research, a quantitative research, a qualitative research, understanding who is your target group, what kind of, profile that we are talking about, what is the age group, what culture my target group is into, what ethnicity that they have, what kind of, expectation they have from the job that they're looking into. So all that research part is something that comes in the strategy part. Wherein when we get into a design solution space, we talk about the differentiators, the kind of ideation that we do in terms of how the flow of the information would be, how the structure of the content would be, how a design or the shape of the your overall application should be, where the complexity would be. So all that thing is done in the design space. And then comes the delivery space, wherein whatever we have done in design and strategy, we give it a guideline, a rule book, wherein once you set in a standard, during the whole development and the coding part, the the delivery is maintained by following the guidelines, by setting up the standards up there. So a very uh, intelligently crafted framework of a user experience engineering. And when we get into this, the business objectives, the user needs and the user journeys is something that gets clear very nicely. So when you become an user experience engineer, what are the kind of things that you would be, engaging yourself into? You would be, you can actually pick up. Such a huge topic as an user experience engineer. The pillars of experience engineering itself can have, various niche areas where one can actually, put their get their expertise into. So, like for example, information architecture, or for that matter, interaction design, sound design, or a visual design. These are the various strong pillars of a user experience design, in which one would be actually engaging themselves in terms of when you are actually crafting for, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, or whether it's a, an offering that a corporate or a startup is trying to get into. So when you get into this experience design, these are the various aspects that one would be engaging into, and these are actually the building blocks, the small packets which actually contributes towards making the overall experience better, and that's what is the most important elements of this thing. So when we get into user experience engineering, what are the kind of profiles that one is expecting? What are the kind of roles that one would be getting into? And from a top-down bottom approach, when you top to bottom approach, if you look into, there are profiles like UX directors, there are profiles like UX managers, user experience designers, researchers, analysts, interaction designers, and visual designers. Now, each and every profile that you are looking here are kind of a very niche areas in the user experience engineering domain. A user experience researcher is a guy who's primarily, he has his whole skills in the research approach. He understands how a various type of research in a various type of scenarios can be done. So imagine a project which is, spawns globally, multiple countries. For example, Amazon. Amazon is a product of a company which actually spawns, across all the corners of the globe. Now, a person sitting in, say, Japan, vis-a-vis a person sitting in Pune, Maharashtra, vis-a-vis a person sitting in New York, they all are using Amazon. But how their experience is, common, how these three different personalities are using the application in a similar way. What kind of, user needs they have, what kind of demands that they have that your application should fulfill. Understanding that persona in well, understanding the business need that well, understanding user goals that well, and their journey that well is something which is very important before you start crafting any application or any solution. And then once your research is done, then it actually starts taking shape on the basis of a user requirements, user needs, user demands. These various type of, things are collated together, and then a crafting happens. A user experience designer, somebody who makes the complex scenario and breaks down that into a simpler ones and create much more efficient design. You all must have heard of minimalistic design. Minimalistic design is something which is something wherein you will have to understand how various type of designers integrate their various approaches for the solutions. So these designers are people who are not creating visual design, but people who are actually one who create wireframes, create minimalistic design approach, create solutions from the approach of the research that has been created by a researcher. So these designers are working towards laying out the information, the flow in a specific way. Managers are people who are, generally understands the various user mindsets, who understand how a researcher has done their process, a designer has done their process, and then integrate them all together. Visual designers, analysts, interaction designers are somebody who also, work towards the motion, the micro animations, the changes that a screen should have when you move from one screen to another. What kind of prioritization, deprioritization should a screen have in terms of the engagement that user is having to. So various these kind of profiles are there in the niche areas. UX analysts are generally people who come with a background of a business analyst, and but they understand the business need and business domain, and then they get into user experience engineering, where they understand the domain much more better. They understand the nitty-gritties of business, and then when they do the research, when they get engaged with the demands of the business, they are the people who actually craft the requirement much more from the business objective perspective. So various type of profiles that one can opt in a user experience engineering, and these profiles are in very much demand right now, because as I spoke about, the digitalization is the future. The people are looking for everything to get digitalized. The demands for these profiles are much more high in the market. When you get into user experience, the key parameters wherein which will be actually helping towards crafting of the experience engineering are the three things, which is technology, business, and design. Technology itself plays a very vital role, because what technology one would be using for creating a solution, having an understanding of that, interacting with the gurus of the technologies who are engaged with you in a project, and people who are contributing towards the various elements that are coming as a part of a solution, are through the technology, should be engaged into this, so that you understand what are the benefits of using a type of a technology, how you can leverage the various functionalities and features that provides. Similarly, on the business side, what are the needs of the business? What are the primary objective? Is the business about taking a product globally, or does he want to take it to a very niche market with a very a specified target group? So are those the business requirement? Similarly, on the design side, you want to keep it more aesthetically branding heavy, more minimalistic design. You want to position that more from a creative angle. uh, Various type of aspects actually put into this. So as a user experience engineer, you tend to interact with almost all of these people who contribute towards the overall solution, and they are the people who bring very specific and a very niche area. These are the experts of their domain, and they have that knowledge. But you, as a user experience engineer, when you start talking to them, you get insights about various other domains, and how can utilize their strengths to contribute toward creating an innovative solution. And that's exactly the beauty of this profile, wherein when you, as a user experience engineer, engage on any project or any solution, you tend to interact with almost anybody and everybody in this domain. You talk with a software guy, you talk with a finance guy, you talk with a marketing guy, a CEO, CFO, CMO, to understand all the aspect of the overall solution, because that gives you a holistic, a 360-degree view of the overall solution. And then with that, you understand that how a better solution can be made. What are the priorities of a user? What are the priorities of a business? And what is it that should be crafted first, and what should be given a preference, so that the whole design and the solution actually benefit to the target audience. And the beauty of the whole user experience engineering is, one, while you're doing this thing, you get so much of exposure to learn various domains. So for example, you're working in a retail banking project. You're creating an app for a ATM machine, or an application for a retail banking. You tend to interact with all the people of the banking. You understand how banking works, and you're done with all that thing. And once you're out of that project, you have an immense knowledge of each and every nitty-gritties of the banking. And imagine you get into a second project of insurance. And when you get into insurance, you understand how insurance industry works, how the various, say, underwriting, how claim processing happens, how various aspects of the insurance work, and then you start crafting business solutions for that. Ultimately, when you come out of insurance project, out of while you worked on these two projects, you were not only working at a superficial level, you interacted with almost everybody and anybody as a stakeholder in that domain, and you got an immense knowledge from that thing. And the beauty is, the more projects you do, the more knowledge you gather. You understand how various processes in the various domain have actually been built and crafted to make that industry much more better. And as a user experience engineer, when you get into this, you know you become more mature, you understand the process, the value of the processes, and you start gaining more and more knowledge the more projects you do. So if you see the profile of a UX director, he's somebody who has done you know 30-40 projects in the user experience engineering in wide domain. The amount of knowledge that he brings into the solutioning, pick up a solutioning that he did somewhere in banking and put it in insurance, and you create something new, you innovative. So this domain is so beautiful, wherein a lot of knowledge that gets accumulated. The by more work you do, the more knowledge of the various industries and domain you get into. So that's the beauty of this one. And with digitization and with the trends changing these days, various demands for a user experience is coming through. Few years back, personalization, voice-based, gesture-based was just a dream. You couldn't complete a task on the basis of, I would say something to my Google Home and it would do my task. Or I would ask Alexa to do something, and that task is done. This was a dream. But with the technology that has kind of evolved in the course of time, personalization, voice-based interfaces, gesture-based interfaces, multi-device experiences. While you are doing a webinar on a laptop, you can easily move it to iPad, or from iPad to your mobile device, and you can be on mobile, you can travel, but your connectivity is maintained to multiple devices. Right? Stuffs like this, wearables, your Apple Watch, your glasses, which have become much more smart now. So the whole technology is actually building an immense amount of opportunities for user experience guys, because user experience is something which plays a very vital role, because digitalization is actually nothing but an interface between a machine and a human. And when that is needed, an understanding and emotion of a user, empathizing with the user at a point of time where what are his pain points, and then delivering that solution using the technique of user experience is something which is important. If you look at the personalization in the recent days, we all are, while our lockdown time, we are all are looking into, Amazon Prime, Netflix. And if you see, if you three Netflix film, a three thriller Netflix film in series, automatically Netflix gives you a fourth option of a thriller film. How is that doing it? What is the engine that is running behind? Google Map, it automatically, you go 3 times, you set a map to your office to understand how is the traffic. Fourth time, it automatically prompts you that you at 10 o'clock that there is a less traffic in your office route today. Go at this time. How is this happening? How is the user experience becoming so better? There are a lot of things which is contributing towards that. The user experience is enhanced because the rule engine, the business, the artificial intelligence or machine learning is happening at the back end. And that is actually understanding what are the demands of the user. And all that is happening. The common term for that is called personalization. And what is contributing toward that? User experience engineering. Okay, Google, do my task. Okay, Google, set my light to something. Okay, Google, send a message to somebody. Google does that for you. How is this whole experience getting into it? How is the overall getting an ability to complete a task by just voice command, not even touching a screen or a keypad, and your task is done. Alexa, Siri, Cortana, various type of AI engines have come in, and they help towards contributing, getting into this. What are these? These are nothing but a need of a user experience, an experience that need to be wowed by building an interaction between the devices, Alexa is for a Amazon Echo, Siri for an Apple, a Windows Cortana for all the Windows machine that we have, and Google for Google Home. So various kind of voice-based interfaces have got into a demand. Why? Just to enhance the user experience. Gestures, various type of gestures on that touch screen that we see today. But other than this, if you look into the gaming interfaces, uh, the gestures on the air, the technologies is just immense. There's a lot of demand for this technology upcoming. Multi-device experience, I talked about it. Moving from a tablet to television to iPhone, it has become so easy these days. And you start playing your song on a music app, and you continue that on your car while you're driving. You come back to home, it starts playing on your home theater. How is that multi connectivity happening? How is the device knows that you are shifting your location, and the seamless music is continued in the various environment? These are nothing but the demands of the user. This is how a seamlessness can be built in, and that is what is the need of a future, and digitalization is actually doing it right now. Wearables, Apple devices, various type of medical devices that has come in, which kind of measures your blood glucose level, and medical devices like blood pressure machines. The recent app, the recent Apple Watch, which was launched, also measures your ECG and sends a whole notification to your doctor. All these are the demands of a user experience, and it is something which is enhancing the experience of the user. And what is building all that thing at the back end of this whole personalization and the experience that the consumers are having? The key thing that is working behind is our technologies like artificial intelligence, technologies like IoT, augmented reality, and virtual reality. These are the technologies which are the technologies of the future. But the beauty is that all these things are only happening if digitization is there. And digitization is actually going to change the whole world. And when we talk about digitization, as I am saying again and again, it's nothing but a computer and a human interaction. And for that thing, an experience building is needed. And what better than a user experience engineering? Artificial intelligence examples are, Siri, Windows Cortana, these kind of engines that we have. There was a recently, you must have seen a news sprawling robot called Sophia was built in, and she can answer anything and everything like humans. So that is artificial intelligence. IoT, home automation, getting your room light color change by saying it to Alexa, controlling the AC temperature with your mobile phone, Internet of Things, switching on or off your TV by asking your Google Home, Internet of Things. So these are the various technologies that are coming through. Augmented reality. A Pokemon Go was a big hit at some point of time, wherein you have to go and switch on your camera, and something on a virtual world of a virtual world will amalgamate itself in a real world, and then you have to start interacting with that. A very beautiful example of augmented reality. Virtual reality, by not being present there, and you can actually experience the whole thing in virtual reality. So somebody sitting in Pune experiencing the Times Square of a New York is now possible. You put on your HoloLens or you put on your virtual glass, and you can feel that you are actually there, standing there, and you can feel how one would actually feel when he's standing in the actual New York Times Square. All that is possible today because of the power of these technologies that gives us. So I think digitalization is the future. And when we say digitalization, user experience, building user experience is the outmost need of the future. To learn more about the user experience, there are various ways you can actually understand about this. I spoke about a Imagine XP framework that we have, 60 process, very well crafted by our consultants, our user experience guys, who have spent an immense amount of time in the technology, and they all have got a together and created this framework. You can learn more about that if there are various ways you can engage into. We have various touch points in your university, and who can you connect with. Before I close the session, there are some of the books that you should definitely look into if you want to learn about. The Design of Everyday Things by Dr. Don Norman is something which is an excellent book. One must read, I think, whether you opt for user experience or not. But this is something that you should always, read, because this gives a very different perspective of the design. It talks about the usability aspect. It talks about how to empathize with your user when you are creating something for as a solution. Some other books are Elements of User Experience and Don't Make Me Think is a very good book that you should refer to. With that, I will take a close on my presentation. And these are the touch points, Manorama and Aman, you can connect with. Their coordinates are also mentioned in the slides. So you can connect with them for more details about the user experience courses that runs by Emergence.
Thank you
That
so
I'll
much,
take a
sir.
pause. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for the igniting us regarding in terms of user experience design, visual design, digitization. So I'm sure I've been receiving multiple questions. So one of the questions which is being asked by most of our viewers is, can anyone from non-design or non-technology or non-engineering background do user experience design? Because this is it involves major thing that is creative as well as coding, so everyone is confused about this, I think. So most of them have this question.
Yeah. So user experience engineering is not dependent. It is anything. It is an industry for anybody who wants to innovate and create something new. It doesn't has a dependency of you should be from a creative field or you should be from a technology. If you remember, I talked about research based outcome. Research is something that anybody does. If you want to go and buy a phone, we start doing a very small research by finding out Flipkart has a better deal, or Amazon has a better deal, or some other portal has a better deal. What is this? It's nothing but a research. Doing this in a deep dive way with a structured approach is doing research. And when you have a solid research, creating a solution on the basis of a research is user experience engineering. This doesn't have a dependency on whether you should come from a creative field or whether you should come from a technology field. No, not needed. Anybody and everybody can get into it.
Thank you so much, sir. Another question is by Mr. Sahil Sahu, and he has a question that, is there any good scope in UX design? So I
Yeah,
suppose
I answered that thing, I think, in the session.
yeah,
With
yeah.
the digitalization as a future, I think there is a huge scope. People are looking for, n number of user experience guys because there are so many products. I'll put a scenario right now. You pick up any problem that India is facing to right now. Women's safety, um, kachra safai, or you talk about say, any problem, you pick it up. Pollution, traffic control. You ask about anyone, and they will come back to you with a solution of an app. What is app?
Hmm.
The digital solution. And to create an app, who is needed? The first person who's needed to create an app is a UX guy. So imagine the amount of need that we have for a UX guy. Huge, immense, and there's a lot of opportunity in that field.
So one of the questions is, what was your biggest learning as a designer?
Biggest learning as a designer. So biggest learning as a designer, I have been, designer by choice, and God grace, I have been doing my creative things from my childhood. But with the course of time, when I evolved, I understand that anything and everything has a reason behind. And that is the reason how I got into user experience. I started doing research. So as a designer, I think my great learning is, before you do anything, you know, human emotion is one angle where a designer generally emote on his artwork. But when it comes to profession, anything that you create should have a research-based outcome.
Yeah, definitely. So, and what are the types of digital design industries in which we can enter? Like, for example, you have mentioned various industries where UX design is required. So it's very difficult for a layman to connect how we are going to enter as a UX designer in terms of hospitality or in terms of, say, a business background. So how can we connect as a UX designer in various industries?
So I'll tell you, last year this number came to me. The maximum number of user designers, user experience designers were, given job or they were engaging themselves was in visual merchandising. Visual merchandising is an industry. So you go to a Shoppers Stop or a Zara shop, and the kind of experience that you have while the shopping, actually user experience engineers were, crafting that one. A mall like Target or a mall like Walmart, when you get into, how are these people designing their alleys, designing the whole, experience of shopping is actually done by a user experience engineer. When a Taj brings up a festival of a food, how does a customer experience that whole food festival is done by a user experience engineer. So there is one aspect where people think, that it's mobile app or a website design or an application design is only where I can engage into. No, there is a huge demand in other industries as well. Because the thumb rule is it's a research-based profile. It doesn't has a very strong connect only with digitalization. Although the world is going into digitalization and there's a huge demand because technology itself is not smart enough to craft the human needs. Somebody is needed to craft it for a human behavior. Hence, there is a high demand in the digital industry. But so is with other industries as well.
Yeah. And I'm sure for students who are more interested in, say, fashion or product designing, they can definitely connect UX designing in that terms. Like, for example, you gave an example of Shopper Stop. So if anyone is interested in fashion, they can move in this direction also.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So one more question we have received, that how do you think coronavirus has increased the growth of UX design?
It has definitely increased the course of design because, see, everybody has got locked up. People are inside their home trying to, get their job done by their computers. And when they're trying to do their job there by computers, there comes a need of a human and a computer interaction. And when a human and a computer interact, you need an application and interface. And when that interface is needed, you need an experience engineering. Suddenly you saw so many apps got popped up. Zoom suddenly became very popular app. Why? Because the experience was better. So the digitalization is so much demand because you are locked in a confined. The moment you get locked in a confined scenario, there is always a need to find out other ways to complete a task. And these days that is happening by either your mobile phone or by your computers.
Yes, sir. So what do you think about, say, when we talk about design thinking? So design thinking, when we do it in the Indian context, so always design thinking has been followed from Stanford and various other universities. So what do you think about design thinking when it plays in Indian context, or when we design products for our Indian consumers?
The thumb rule of a design thinking is to first of all is empathize with the user, and
Yeah.
second is to understand the problems in more detail. The thumb rule is break down the larger problems into smaller problems and then create a smaller solutions, combine them together, and the implementation is done. Now, when we talk about that in an Indian context, uh, you know, when the first thing that I spoke about is empathizing. Now, to empathize with an Indian customer vis-a-vis empathizing with a US-based guy or a UK-based guy, two things comes very strongly in the picture is the culture. How a human, how a Indian guy reacts to a scenario, how vis-a-vis how an American guy or a UK guy reacts to a scenario. So in that case, empathizing with the user, what are his prioritization? You know, in terms of completing a task, in terms of the user needs and user demands, and then defining their problem statement becomes very important. So although there is a framework set by the large MNCs or the large institutions you named about, but it changes. That's what is the whole design thinking about. It's a research based outcome again, and at every context it kind of gives you an output on the basis of the research, the target group that you have. So it varies that way. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Another question which we have is what types of skills do we need to know if we are entering a UX design industry?
Only one skill, and that is the ability to question. So if you
That's
have that inquisitiveness, if you always want to ask why does this happen, that inquisitiveness is something that if you have, you will do a solid research. And the more research you do, the more data you have. The more data you have, the more insight about the problem you have. The more insight about the problem you have, the more better solution you will create.
yeah. Also, like for students who are a little bit into this creative industry, it's a bit positive point for them. Like for example, students who are in media, so they know certain softwares, yeah, or they know something about creative thinking. So is it a positive point for them?
Yes, it is. See, what is happening in the industry now, UX has actually gone to advanced level. This is no more an entry time of a UX. UX is already matured in the industry. And
Yeah.
people, large MNCs are actually looking for a combined profiles. So, if somebody who's a designer who understands colors, human emotions with the color tag to that thing, somebody who understands shapes, somebody who understands patterns, if this is a profile which combines with the user experience skills, you know, it becomes a very powerful profile. And that is what is the MNCs are looking for. They call it hybrid profile. They are looking for somebody, instead of a two-person doing a job, now there's one person who can do a job of user experience engineering as well as creative delivery. So, and similarly, it can be in the combination of somebody who comes from a business analyst background and user experience. So he will deliver a business analysis as well as a user experience. So hybrid profiles are always welcome. Somebody who's a creative guy, if joins user experience, becomes the hot cake of the industry right now.
Definitely. So, thank you so much, sir. I think we had a wonderful session, and it's really important for us to understand that one field is not constrained to certain areas. I think most of us have this confusion that we consider it just a technical field or a creative field. So, how it is beyond, and it is really helpful for us to understand the details of everything which is possible when you enter such a field and how the scope has increased in current scenario. And it was really insightful to learn and understand about user experience design. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Imagine XP. And I think we had a very great session today. I would like to thank all the viewers who were there connected with us. And I think you all had a wonderful session understanding about design and visual design, various areas. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you so much.